Hey guys, in this video we're going to jump right in and learn how to work with OpenAI. We're really going to be building a little mini app in which we'll be ultimately sending a request to OpenAI and getting a response back. We're going to go through their quick start tutorial where they'll walk us through everything from learning Python and getting that set up on our computer, and running a virtual environment, getting our API keys, and then sending a request and getting a response back. It's actually very easy, and I'm going to walk you through everything step by step. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to show you is how to access the quick start tutorial. You're going to go to OpenAI's website. You'll go to their API tab, click on Docs. This will take you to an introduction page. What we're going to want to do is just click on the quick start tab, and then we'll be able to follow along. For those of you that are complete beginners, we're just going to install Python, and that'll allow us to interact with OpenAI. So all we're going to do is look at the documentation. We'll open up this tab here for install Python. We'll go to this link to the official Python website. We can just download Python here. And then once you've done that, we can go ahead and go back and move on. The next step is setting up your virtual environment. You can think of an environment as a workshop that has the tools and materials necessary to complete a project. A virtual environment allows you to take on multiple projects. Think of an electrician and a painter. They'll each have their own workshops with their tools and materials necessary to complete their own projects. A virtual environment allows you to have these digital workshops separate so that you can keep your code organized. We'll begin the process by creating a folder on your computer. Call it AI Toolbox. This folder will hold your virtual environment as well as all of the code that pertains to the project. We'll then download Visual Studio Code, which is a popular tool among developers to write, test, and debug your code. We're going to go to Visual Studio Code's website, code.visualstudio.com. You can download it from here. I've already got it downloaded, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull up a screen with it open. So this should be the welcome screen for you. We'll supercharge it by adding on some extensions. Python extension pack. This makes it easier to read and write your code. The materials icon theme makes it easier to navigate through your files by giving each one a unique look. We'll also add the Jupyter extension pack. This makes it easy to run one line of code at a time. It's extremely helpful for when you want to make sure that each piece is working as intended. And then I'll show you how to turn on autosave so that you never lose your work and you can always stay updated with your projects. From here is just jump into adding those extensions. I've already got these installed, but I'm just going to show you how to do it. You can just go to the extension tab as you just saw me do here on the left. Let's go ahead and open this a little bit, and then you can see Python extension pack here. You'll probably see the install button, which you can just click or go into it and you can click there. The next one that we're going to do is Jupyter. So we can just type Jupyter on this one. From here we'll open this up and install it. One thing we're going to need to do after we install Jupyter is we're actually going to want to change one of the settings. So from here we'll go to Jupyter send, and then you can just go ahead and check this box. It makes it easy for us to run that one line of code at a time, as I mentioned. From here we'll go ahead and install the material icon theme. So that should pop up. Go ahead and install that one, and then the last thing we'll do is turn on autosave. So we'll go into settings and then just type in autosave, and then I changed mine to on window change, which means anytime we're switching a window like that, it will automatically save for us. We'll wrap it all up by creating and activating your virtual environment, and then we'll be ready to move on to the next step. What we're going to want to do is click on the Explorer tab here. We'll go into Open Folder, and then we're going to go to the folder that we created. So AI Toolbox. We'll go ahead and open that, and then we're going to open the terminal. So you can do that by going to the top, click on Terminal, New Terminal, and you'll see this open down here. From there, we'll actually be able to go back to the Quick Start tutorial and run the code that OpenAI gave us. So we'll start with this first one. Just go ahead and hit this copy button here, and we can jump back to Visual Studio Code and paste that in here. We're going to change a couple of things. Since we're going to be building automate toolbox, we'll just go ahead and create an auto environment, or auto-env is the name that we'll have for it. And then we'll go ahead and change Python to Python 3, especially for those of you that have recently downloaded Python. And then we'll hit enter. While that's going, we can go back to the next one and we'll run this last line of code. For us, we're on a Mac, so we'll copy that code, paste that in here. And just for your edification, what we did in the last one is we created the environment and now we are activating it. But because we changed the name above, we're going to want to change the name here as well. So just go ahead and do that, and then it's activated, and you'll know if this pops up before all of our name and folder location here. And that's it. Alright, the next step is to install OpenAI's Python library onto your environment. It's essentially a set of code that they've written to make it easy to interact with their API. Let's go ahead and do it. Just go ahead and navigate back to the quick start tutorial. We'll go ahead and copy this code here, and then we'll paste that in our terminal. And we can go ahead and run that. And we're all set. Just let the code run. Alright, the next step is to set up your API key. This is essentially your password that you can use when sending a request to OpenAI. They'll use it to validate you, and then they'll send a response back. There are two ways to do this. The first one is locally, where you can set your computer up to always use the same API key. The second way is using an environment file and an environment variable. It gives you a lot more flexibility when doing this, especially when you move from development to production. And also, if you have multiple clients, you can use an API key for each client, and it allows you to track the usage a little bit more cleanly for each of them. I'm going to go ahead and walk you through this. We'll start by creating an API key in OpenAI's platform, and then we'll move over to VS Code, where we're going to create a file, and then we'll go ahead and paste in our environment variable, that password that we've created. One thing to note here is that OpenAI talks about a get ignore file. We're not going to do that for now because I'll address this in a later video. Alright, for those of you that have not created an OpenAI account, go ahead and go to openai.com. You'll click on the login button and just go through their prompts to create yourself an account. I've already got one made, so I'm just going to show you what the login screen should look like, which is here. And then what we're going to do is create an API key by hovering over to the left-hand side. We'll go ahead and hit the API keys button, and then you'll hit this create new secret key. I'm just going to use the one that I've already made here, and what we're going to do now is go back to VS Code, and then we're going to create a new file, and then we'll paste that code in here. So let's go ahead and create the new file by clicking on this new file button. We'll just call it .env. Go ahead and hit enter, and then copy and paste your key in. We're going to call it this OpenAI API key, and then set it to equals and put your code in. And that's it. Alright, next we're going to import our API key, but we're going to do it a little bit differently than OpenAI since we used an environment file and an environment variable. We're going to need to actually add a couple of lines of code, so I'll go ahead and show you guys how to do that. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is copy the code that OpenAI gives us here. We'll go ahead and put that into VS Code. We're going to start by creating a new file. We're going to create a Python file here, so we'll call this auto.py. Once we've done that, we can paste the code in here, and then as I mentioned, we've got a couple of lines of code to add, which I'm going to show you now. So we can just put these below that, and you can see this is giving us an error at the moment. That's because, as I mentioned, we need to install one more package. So if you navigate down to the terminal, you can just go ahead and type in pip install python-dotenv. Once you install that, you can see this is now working, and then I'm going to try running our code. Alright, now we're on to the last and most exciting part. We're actually going to send our request to OpenAI and have them send us a response back, all within VS Code. Let's get started. Alright, from the quick start tutorial, we're just going to go ahead and copy from here down. Then we'll go back to Visual Studio Code. We'll paste in the rest of the code here, and then we can we can again hit run. You'll see that run there, and what it's doing is we've created a system prompt here telling the system that it's a poetic assistant skilled in explaining complex programming concepts with creative flair. So we're essentially just giving it instructions, and then the next one is a user prompt, which you can think of this either as from us, or if we have clients prompting this, it would be them really reaching out to AI given the system instructions. And so here we're asking it to create a poem, which it did below, as you can see. And the last thing I want to show you is how we can use Jupyter Notebook extension. So if you see that I highlight this line of code and I hit Shift Enter, it's going to ask us to install a kernel, which we can do. And then once this is done running, we'll get a check mark here. And you can see it'll just be for that one line of code. We'll then be able to do the same thing here if you highlight the next line, and we can do that. So just wanted to give you guys that for a little demonstration purposes on the value of Jupyter. And that's it, guys. Our code is now ready, and we'll move on to the next video.